She hadn't eaten in 5 days. Shelter. Staff said she was too old, too far gone. But then someone whispered her name, and the 15-year-old German shepherd did something no one expected. What happened next left the entire room frozen and turned heartbreak into one final unforgettable miracle. The kennel was quietest in the back corner. That's where Suddi lay, motionless, curled into herself like a ghost in the shape of a dog. At 15 years old, the German shepherd had seen a full life, but none of it prepared her for this. Her fur, once thick and proud, had dulled with age. Her eyes no longer watched. They waited for something or someone. Suddi had been brought in just 4 days ago. Her owner, an elderly man who lived alone, had passed suddenly. There was no family to take her in, no backup plan. One moment she was curled at his feet, the next she was in a cold metal cage, surrounded by unfamiliar voices and unfamiliar smells. She refused to eat. The shelter staff tried everything: hand-fed chicken, warm broth, gentle voices, classical music. Nothing worked. She didn't bark. She didn't lift her head. She didn't even respond to her own name. Suddi had shut down completely. She wasn't just mourning. She was letting go. Dr. Patel, the attending vet, shook his head after the 3rd exam. "She's not sick," he said. "She's grieving herself to death. Some dogs just stop when their person's gone." The volunteers kept her comfortable, brought blankets, whispered soft encouragements through the bars. But every day she grew thinner. Her breathing slowed, her spark dimmed. They didn't say it out loud, but they all felt it. Suddi wouldn't last a week. The shelter director quietly made space on the schedule. If nothing changed, she'd be humanely euthanized by Friday. Not out of cruelty, but to end her suffering. But in that still, silent corner of the shelter, something hadn't faded yet. A memory, a voice, a reason to hold on. And that reason was closer than anyone could have imagined. Rachel hadn't meant to stop at the shelter that day. She was just dropping off old towels and blankets, things she no longer needed after moving into her new apartment across town. But as she stepped inside, something tugged at her. A subtle pull. She looked around and asked if they needed extra help. "We're always short-staffed." The receptionist smiled. "If you've got time, we've got dogs." That's how she ended up walking past row after row of kennels, gently tossing treats, greeting wagging tails. But when she reached the last kennel on the left, she froze. There in the corner was a dog that didn't move. Her body was thin. Her fur faded with time. Her ears drooped, eyes empty. But Rachel didn't look at the condition. She looked at the eyes. She knew those eyes. Heart pounding. Rachel stepped closer and scanned the nameplate. Suddi, age 15. Owner deceased. Intake date 4 days ago. Her breath caught. Number it. Couldn't be, but deep down she knew it was. Years ago, when Rachel was in high school, she lived next door to an old man and his loyal German shepherd. Suddi had been younger then, alert, proud, always watching the world with eyes that missed nothing. Rachel used to sneak her leftover sandwich crust through the fence. They had a bond, a quiet one, but real. "Sati," she whispered, no movement. Rachel stepped even closer, crouched low. "Sadie, girl, it's me. Remember?" Still nothing. And then an almost imperceptible twitch of an ear. Rachel's throat tightened. Her voice softened, further mimicking the gentle cadence. The old man used. Sadie, girl, you're not alone. From behind the glass, Sadie stirred. The past had returned, and with it a sliver of something unexpected. Hope. The moment passed like a whisper. Barely there, almost imagined. But Rachel saw it. Sada's ear flicked again. Then slowly, painfully, her head lifted. From her pause. Her eyes clouded with grief tried to focus. Rachel leaned in. Tears already filling her eyes. Yes, girl. It's me, she said gently. I didn't forget you. Suddi blinked then. Let out the faintest whine. It was hoarse like a breath trying to form words that didn't exist. The shelter volunteer standing nearby gasped. That's the first sound she's made since she arrived. Rachel looked up. Can I go in there? Normally, protocol would have prevented it, but the staff exchanged glances and nodded. Go ahead, someone said. She knows you. The kennel door creaked open. Rachel stepped inside, her movement slow. Cautious, she knelt beside Suddi, holding her hand out. The dog didn't flinch. Instead, she nudged her head into Rachel's palm, weakly, but with unmistakable intent. That was the moment. Everything shifted. Sada's breathing changed. Her chest no longer rose and fell in shallow gas. She was fighting. Again fighting to stay. And Rachel. She was already making a decision she hadn't seen coming. She wasn't leaving Sati behind. Rachel stayed with her 4 hours, gently stroking her fur, humming softly, feeding her tiny bites of boiled chicken the staff brought in. For the first time in 4 days, Suddi accepted food. She ate slowly, but she ate. By the end of the day, the staff had removed her from the euthanasia list. She has someone now, the director said, quietly watching the two through the glass. She found her reason. And Sadie. She lay with her head in Rachel's lap, eyes half closed, not from surrender, but from peace, the kind only love can bring back. Over the next few days, Rachel visited Sati every morning, always arriving before the shelter even opened. She'd bring soft blankets, warm chicken broth, and that same familiar tone in her voice that seemed to unlock memories in the old dog's heart. Suddi wasn't just responding, she was recovering. Each day brought a little more light in her eyes, a little more strength in her legs. One morning as Rachel stepped into the kennel and sat down, Suddi did something no one expected. She stood wobbly, uncertain, but proud. The staff froze, watching through the glass with wide eyes. Suddi walked slowly but surely toward Rachel, rested her graying muzzle on her shoulder, and let out a soft, content sigh. Rachel wrapped her arms around her and whispered, "You're coming home." The adoption paperwork was fast-tracked. Everyone at the shelter knew this bond was different. It wasn't just adoption. It was reunion. Rachel brought Sati home to a quiet space she had prepared with soft lighting, orthopedic beds, and warm food. But most importantly, love. Their days together were simple. Walks in the park when Sati had the energy, naps under the sunlit window, Rachel reading aloud as Sati rested her head on her lap. Time slowed in their world. Every moment soaked in meaning. One rainy afternoon, Rachel opened an old photo album. She found a picture from years ago. Her teenage self in the neighbor's yard. Sadie just behind the fence peeking through. She turned the album towards Sati, smiling. "See, you were always part of my story." Suddi's tail gave the softest wag. Her body was tired, but her Heart was full. The girl who once fed her sandwich crusts had become her second chance. And somehow, in the quiet of those days, both had found healing in each other's presence. Suddi lived for 6 more months. They weren't long, but they were everything. Each morning, she greeted Rachel with a gentle tail wag and a soft groan. The kind of sound old dogs make when they stretch into the sun. Their routine was quiet but full of meaning. A warm breakfast, a slow walk through the garden, and hours curled up together on the porch swing, wrapped in a blanket of love and memory. Rachel took photos, lots of them. Sadie with her head on a pillow. Sati sniffing flowers. Sati watching the rain from the window. Each image told a different chapter of the life she'd reclaimed. And as Rachel shared their story online, thousands followed their journey. Suddi became a symbol not just of survival but of what love can still do. Even at the very end, people from around the world sent letters and gifts. Seniors grieving pet owners, even children drew pictures of Suddi and wrote, "You're my hero." One note read, "She didn't get a second chance. She gave one to us." And then, one golden afternoon, Suddi fell asleep by the window, head resting on Rachel's foot as the breeze carried the scent of lavender through the open door. Her breathing slowed, and in that peaceful moment she let go. Rachel didn't cry right away. She just sat there stroking Sadie's fur, whispering, "Good girl. You did so good." Later she placed a photo of Suddi in a small frame next to the front door, a reminder, a promise that old souls still matter, that no story is over until it's truly finished. And sometimes even then love writes a final page no one saw coming. Suddi may have been 15 and forgotten, but she left this world deeply, fiercely loved.